Mario Greco was born on January 1st, 1936 in Brooklyn on Coney Island Avenue. He attended high school at Westinghouse High School and after turning 18 did service in the Army. He went to school to learn how to fix radios and was stationed in Buffalo fixing radios for troops. 2 years later he'd work in the reserves and then he'd move on to the next part of his life.
Hi, I met Mario when I was about 15, and he always used to tease me all the time and tell me, oh, you smoke, I'm going to tell your mother you smoke. Of course, my mother didn't know I smoked, but he was going to tease me about it. He used to say, what do you smoke, in the bathroom, out the window? And I thought, oh, this guy, I don't know. But then one night we were going home. He says, I'll walk you home. I said, okay. He walked me home. And we got serious with one another. And we started dating. And eventually we got married. And we had a nice life together. We had a nice family. And he was a nice, hard-working man.
On September 8th, 1958, Mario and Marie Greco would get married and start their own family. Their first child will be my uncle Vincent Greco, who was born on November 25th, 1959. Their second child will be my father, Thomas Greco, who was born on September 20th, 1967. And their final child, my Aunt Jean Greco, now named Jean Graham, will be born on March 21st, 1970.
The question here that you ask is, what have I enjoyed, or what was my fondest memories of growing up with Poppy? And it's not necessarily one particular thing. What I remember at Poppy and what I try to carry as a parent is his involvement. Whether when we went to the beach, my father did not just sit on the side and watch us play in the water. He was in there with us. He was in the water, riding the waves with us, playing with us, laughing with us, making castles with us, sand castles. When we were outside and I was throwing the basketball or the baseball, he was out there and he'd get put on a glove or he would get on the court and play with me. And I think that those are the things that I try to, I guess for lack of a better word, mimic as a parent. It's just being involved, just being there and doing things with my kids and not just watching it and letting the time go by, but being involved with them and enjoying every moment.
Mario's only career in life will be at Con Edison. When he started, he worked in the manholes and then was promoted to a management position where he would determine when the employees worked in the manholes and on the field. Eventually, he'd go to Kingsborough College so he could continue working at Con Edison at a higher pay level. Upon returning to Con Edison, he would investigate explosions in the manholes. He even won $10,000 for an idea he had.
He worked for Con Ed 32 years. He worked very hard. He was very well liked. He had a very good reputation. He worked his way up from being a splicer up to working in the engineering department. And all that time he was respected by his workers and by the company. He worked overtime and did a lot of extra work. He even, at one point, he won $10,000 because he invented something that Con Ed could use for the company, and they used his idea, and they're probably still using it now. He always had a good, every time we went to parties that were given by Con Ed, he was always looked upon, and everybody came over, the young guys and the older guys, to say hi and see how he was doing. And he retired from there, and after he retired, he would go back once in a while to say hi to the fellas.
Eventually, time would go on and the kids would grow up. Vincent would marry my Aunt Julie, and the two would give birth to his first grandchild, Melissa, his third grandchild, Zachary, and his eighth grandchild, Anthony. Thomas would marry my mother, Michelle, and would give birth to his second grandchild, Christopher, his fifth grandchild, Allison, his seventh grandchild, Olivia, and his ninth and final grandchild, Abigail. Jean would marry my uncle, Paul, and would give birth to his fourth grandchild, Corinne, and his sixth grandchild, Nicole.
I felt welcome from the first day I met him. Mario had a way of making people feel like they were always part of his family, He had a great sense of humor. He would change your mood from bad to good with one joke, and he always made me feel like everything would be okay.
After retirement, Mario would live through the birth of all 9 of his grandchildren. Me, my sisters, and my cousins would only know him in the first few years of our lives, but the time we got to know him was the defining years of our childhood. In the final years of his life, he would move to Staten Island with Marie in a 2-family house shared with Aunt Jean and Uncle Paul. Fondest memory of Poppy was when me and Zachary were sleeping over at Grandma's house, and he told us, "We're going to Toys R Us," but instead he took us to a 99-cent store, just like that.
The things that I admired about him is that he was always helpful, and in a time when men really didn't do housework or change diapers, he chipped in and helped out whenever he was home. And as Vinny and Tommy and Jean got older, he would take them to the park to go on the rides, and he took them to football games. Jean, he always took out for a Christmas dinner. It was just him and her. That was their special time together. And he went out of his way to teach the boys how to play golf. Of course, he liked to play it himself, so he taught the boys at a young age to play golf. They used to go to Marine Park, and they had a good time, and they're playing golf today. He was a big golf fan and a big football fan, and I admired him because he went to work and he always made sure he got in there early. He devoted his time to his job, but after work he came home. He was always home with the kids and home with me, of course, and we always had dinner together. He wasn't the type who would run out and be with his friends, or like many of his friends went out drinking after work, but he came right home. He was a good father, he was a good husband, and I admire him for that. Always thought of his, and when we had grandchildren, he thought of his grandchildren and always wanted to be with them, and he used to take them out too whenever he could. He used to take Christopher and Zachary out, and he took Corinne and Nikki. We lived in a house with them, so he used to take them riding in their wagons, and they had really a good time. And he liked to always looked forward to seeing the children when they came. And I think he was just a good man all around. He was a lot of fun to be with. We had a lot of friends, and they all loved being with him, and they always remarked about what a good sense of humor he had and how we always laughed when we were all together. He had his faults. We all do. But he was basically a good husband and a good father.
Rest in peace, Mario Greco. You lived a great life, and I hope you